welcome to my own public laboratory, which is the Gowanus Canal site in Brooklyn, America. I've been organizing with a lot of my neighbors to have it declared a really horrible, nasty place that's industrially polluted and should be declared a Superfund site. Well, it was this year, and it means that we're going to be getting nearly $500 million for cleanup processes. That means that we as community organizations are going to have to get much more organized about data about our neighborhood. And typically, when you talk data, you talk Google. You just ask for it, and normally it pops up. And in some parts of the world, like Latin America or Africa, you'll often draw a blank, especially for aerial photographs. And for my neighborhood, I have fantastic coverage. But when it comes to the grassroots quality my grandmother was talking about, you need something better. And that's where grassroots mapping comes in, effectively you. That's a program where we try to train the local expert, you, the person who knows the most about your own backyard, and to make your knowledge part of the discourse and the visual digital record. And how do we do it? We cover a whole range of topics, everything from housing settlements in contested areas to oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico to just plain fun events of you recording your community party. And we'll put it all together on an archive so we can learn from each other's mistakes and programs. And we cover everything from oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico to exactly where it happened and even what was there before to set a benchmark to compare for future changes. And most importantly, we try to do it for cheap, for low cost, typically for under $200, including the camera. And we also set up libraries of, wow, how did you do that? Libraries of online manuals of the stuff you're going to need, how to rig it up, and most importantly, how to fly a kite. And that's really why I love public laboratory, because even though they're telling you how to do your homework, you actually got to go out and play at the same time. We have online forums where we share some of our disasters, mistakes, and successes, such as this cut-in-half plastic bottle, which is used to protect the camera in case of a balloon disaster. And most importantly, what we're trying to do is to set up a new public-private data dialogue about how people experience their environments, record, and share data. Often, when we're talking urban data, we're talking about a black box kept by the state, and often the state has forgotten where they put the key. I'll ask for sewage data for New York City, and I'm told, no, it's a homeland security issue. So sometimes, like this little girl, you have to just jump in the pool and go collect that data yourself. This is our own little pool. It's the Gowanus Canal. I wouldn't recommend jumping into it, but it is actually a fun place, and we've been doing grassroots aerial photo mapping to collect sites where there's pollution, where the environmental violations have happened, and on a positive note, where we want to see new historic streams rebuilt and new open spaces. A critical partner in this effort is the Gowanus Canal Conservancy, who's established a master plan for the open space system we'd like to see in the public access to the waterfront, and also to nudge a couple of our bad neighbors who have this habit of spilling motor oil on the street. In this particular case, the bus operator who was doing this was fined $500,000 this year, which was a huge legal breakthrough for us and for the water quality of the canal. One of the reasons these high-resolution aerial photographs taken by balloons are so important to us is that we're taking a water-sensitive urban design approach to the canal's future. And that means we really want to see very high-resolution aerial photographs, better than what you can see on Google, that show exactly where the vegetation is that is existing, and more importantly, where the puddles are, because suddenly we can start a discussion of, hey, you see that puddle up in the upper left-hand corner? You see that lone tree on the side of the canal? Maybe that's where the old stream was. Maybe that's where we should locate the new rain garden. So it allows a whole process of community discussion based on better data. Also, we're poets, because we're from Brooklyn, and we're trying to capture the 4 seasons of the canal, and to do so, to create a new data history of the changes. But on a pragmatic term, we also want to see which of our trees have croaked last year, because we selected the wrong kind. And so by doing this seasonally, we can keep track of our own disasters. We also use these aerials as a community bridge building tools. So for example, the industrial welder from the canal who donated the helium gas for the balloon can now proudly display this aerial photograph in his lobby. And the city salt lot workers who allowed us to build the ribbon strip planting along their lot to reduce runoff from the salt piles that you see in this photograph can also have the same bragging rights and talk to their friends and say, we're doing something great for our environment. None of this would be possible without one of our local partners called the Gowanus Dredgers Canoe Club. They are, their motto is, well, if you have a lemon, make lemonade. Yes, the Gowanus Canal sucks, but we use that as a teaching tool, an environmental teaching tool to get people to do something about it. That's an actual shot of the water quality next to our canoe dock. And the environmental aerial photographs that we're collecting are part of that teaching tool. That trucking container that you see here is our glamorous boathouse, and we run 1,500 canoe trips out of there every year. Another partner that we're working with in the Grassroots mapping program is the Proteus Gowanus Digital Historical Map and Industrial Artifacts Archives. And they are representative of the artists that have started recolonizing, revitalizing the warehouses. Saskia talked about how digital maps can change the way citizens view their environment. This is the First Street Basin site. It used to be open water and it became a toxic landfill. During the 1950s, trucks started coming here at night. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner where you can still see the boats in the basin. And the end result was that after a couple of decades of illegal trucking, it became filled with drums of mercury-contaminated waste. And so it's going to have to get excavated. And so the next step as a community was, well, what do we need to know about the site so that we can give local grassroots insight? And Saskia talked about the movability of data. We can take the historical maps and overlay them with the current street grid. And suddenly we find out that the First Street Basin site was where one of the first tidal mills of America was ever built, and a major revolutionary battle was fought there. But more importantly, and this really excited the water planners, it was also where there was a really major freshwater spring, which is why the colonial buildings were located there in the first place. So the question came up, how can we prove the existence of this water spring? Because this will make a big difference in our arguments for creating a new community water park that has a historical theme to it. And when we look at the Google aerial, it's good, it's not bad, and it gives us a hint that something's going up in the upper part of the site, in that concrete area, in that green blob. But even better, when we go to our local community resource, this was a balloon aerial we took 6 weeks ago. We suddenly see this really lush weed vegetation growing through the cracks of the cement, right on top of where the old historical stream bed was. So suddenly we have visual evidence of something that was hidden, an old Roman ruin that is still there. And that when we go to the side of the canal to verify the hunch, we see what, lo and behold, all the little fish are congregating in the fresh water coming out of the landfill, and it's even attracting the birds that like to eat the fish. So this has been a process of asking questions that was the actual success. And by the intuition that this gave us, we started looking at the other balloon aerials and realized that where there was darker water was typically where there were the old freshwater streams. And typically those freshwater streams were in old public right-of-ways, giving us opportunities for street-end parks. And that the milkier sewage-contaminated water was what we were trying to reduce by changing the water system of the canal. We even went so far as to play with infrared photography, where we jerry-rig cameras to take pictures of the algae in the water. But the results were quite inconclusive, so I'll quickly gloss over that. But what was important is it did help us to find some illegal discharges along the canal. What have been some of our problems? Where have we screwed up? Well, the obvious one is balloons don't like pricks. They tend to blow up like a lot of people. And we're trying to resolve this problem by creating hybrid kite balloons to avoid the iffy situation that you see of the balloon hovering over a barbed wire fence. We also need better image quality because we're focused on cheapness. We get whatever secondhand cameras we can get off the internet, and sometimes you get slightly blurry images like this one. This is something that's changing. Every year the camera gets twice as good for half the price. So we're actually on a very good technological model that way. And you can see some of the wetlands that we've started building there as a result. Another issue that we're grappling with is we're very good at what we do, even too good, in accumulating hundreds of pictures. And we're trying to set up image sorting software so that the community and the members of the crew can rank what they think are the best and most important pictures for them. In conclusion, we are only a fraction of the millions of images that are being generated about the Gowanus Canal. And this picture here was not even generated by us. It's just taken from Flickr and was taken by a random citizen passerby. And we were really excited when someone Googled Gowanus and it popped up because it shows a old historical pond that quickly came back the minute they started digging out the toxic waste. And this raises the question of the sea of digital images that are piling up. How can they be, that are connected to space, how can they be reconnected to positive urban decision making? And there was this fascinating map that Eric Fisher did where he tied all of the maps that were taken on Flickr back to the streets where they were born. And what surprised me about the map was how eerily accurate it was about the activities in my very own neighborhood. It picked up all the busiest locations. And this year, because he even added in Twitter feeds, I had to laugh because you can see the blue blobs. Those were the vacant lots where we were having environmental volunteers help with our clean and green programs. And lo and behold, they're all twittering away in those blue blobs. And more tellingly, there is also white space for where the poor public housing is. And that's another implication of this data, the social divides that are going on. We are embracing this "we know where you are" technology in a positive way, where some of our members are just using the attributes of the cell phones to geotag both new plant species to understand how they grow and environmental violations. And just to, I hope I've given you a sense of some of the fun that we've had playing with these kites and balloons. And in some ways, I often feel like that little girl, that, yeah, damn it, it is her pool, and that backyard civic data is my pool, and that public laboratory has told me, yeah, look, it's okay. You can go in there and splash around a bit and have fun. Thank you.